Are you ready? Okay, thank you. We'll call the September Finance and Facilities Committee to order. Please note that Kurt O'Brien, our chairperson, has been excused for the evening, and all other members are present. Can you verify that the meeting has been properly posted?
Yes, it has.
Okay. I'm going to add in a little thing that is not on the agenda, but it's acceptance of the minutes from the last meeting. We should probably start doing that. August 8th, 2016.
Move approval?
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any additions or corrections? None. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Do we have any citizens that would like to speak to us tonight? Okay. All right, we have an action item, which is approval of our monthly vouchers. Mr. Sikora.
Yes, we're looking at approving the vouchers for the month of August, and there haven't been any questions at this time.
Okay, wonderful. Want to make a motion to approve the monthly vouchers?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any additions, questions now? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Now we have some information items tonight, which is our monthly budget report. And Mr. Sikora will
For the
also
month-
be
monthly
taking that.
budget, yes, for August. Traditionally, July and August are lighter months for the district, and we're just gearing up for the new fiscal year. And in August, the principal source of our revenue is we had $655,000 in revenues that were generated from student material fees, athletic participation fees, and parking passes. So that was the primary source of the Fund 10 revenue in the month of August. There was like $29,000 for employment service contract cancellation fees. So overall, in the general fund, the district has received $733,000, which is just 0.52% of the annual fiscal year budget. Going into the expenditures, the principal expenditures the district had in August where we spent 4.15% of our budgeted amount for salaries. And then employee benefits, we're at 5.59% of our budgeted amount. There was minimal expenses throughout the month of August, just gearing up for the fiscal year. So overall, in the general fund, the district has spent $7.02 million for July and August, or 4.93% of the budget, as compared to $8.08 million. And then in the special education fund, which is Fund 27, there's been no revenue received thus far for July or August. And overall, in the special education fund, the district's spent $336,000, or 1.2% of the budget. That concludes the report for the August 2016 district financial statement.
Any questions? Mr. Como?
Just a quick comment. This is where our fund balance comes in to hold us over. As you know, we don't have very many revenues coming in at this time, and nor will we until December or January. And so it's a good thing that we have the fund balance to do this, and we don't have to borrow short-term for that, although we do have something coming up where, just in case we have an issue, we'll be talking on that a little bit later. So it's good that we're in this position. I remember many years where we paid out hundreds of thousands of dollars of interest for a short-term borrow. Now we can put those monies to work for our students, and that's a good thing.
Other comments? Thank you. Tax Incremental District, which is a TID, number 9. There is an amendment that they have proposed for that.
Attached in your packet is an amendment being considered. It really involves two TIDs. One's the closure, the scheduled closure of TID 9 in 2017, but it also, the amendment would call for the transfer of dollars to TID 19, I believe? 16. Which would allow that TID to close significantly sooner. It's scheduled to close in 2034. It would allow it to close in 2017. The fiscal impact of that transfer that property returns to the tax rolls, so there's a aid impact. Aid's always the hardest thing to calculate. Us being a negative aided district, we'd probably lose some aid, but we'd also have a larger tax base to spread that loss of aid over. So it's hard to, I can't tell you exactly where that break-even point would fall. So my guess is it's probably kind of tax rate neutral because of the larger tax base. But what you would give up is, it's called the defeasance, I think they call it, they have a different term for surplus increment. Whenever there's surplus cash at the closure of a TID, all the taxing entities get their portion based on the share of the tax bill, a cash payout. We would be waiving that defeasance, which is roughly $100,000, we think. So that's kind of the background. I don't know if, Joe, if you want to, Joe's our representative on the board on these TID panels, so maybe there's some
Yeah,
other.
I mean, and basically, TID 9 has done very well. That's where the shops of the new Target and all the shops over in that area, it's done very, very well. That's the one with excess money. TID 16, if you recall many years ago, they were trying to save by the YMCA. They were trying to save an older building down there that used to be a gas station and a market, and that fell through. So TID 16 is just doing poorly. Looks like it's always going to do poorly. There's just nobody coming forth. So to keep that open through 2034 seems like that's not really a good idea. So this basically is taking a job that, or a TID that did very well, taking some of those monies so that we can close both of them out next year, and then we get all those properties back on the tax rolls. So from a community perspective overall, and that's who we represent, is everybody in the community. Personally, I think it makes sense to go forward and do this. I was just looking to share the information with you and to get any feedback. We actually do get together as a joint review board this Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So I'm all ears to listen to any comments that you may have on this.
I'll just make a few. I think that this is a wise decision to close the one early because we will be saving a lot of interest. It puts that back on the tax rolls, which it should be, as long as it's not making any money in the TID. So I think this is a good idea, and I think you should support it. Any other comments?
Right? I appreciate everyone's input on that then. Thank you.
Yes,
I'll take that back to the discussion on Wednesday.
good, okay. Next item is Mr. Sikora with a district line of credit.
Well, what we're looking at here is, in the past, we've worked with Waukesha State Bank, and they provided the district with a line of credit as a backup in case of unexpected emergencies or expenditures or a reduction in revenue that was unplanned. And like Mr. Cuomo has said, at the end of the fiscal year, that's probably one of our high points in terms of fund balance. And then we do not get our revenues, a big revenue stream, until we get our first tax levy payment in January. So what we're looking at here is just as an insurance policy, so to speak, taking and getting a taxable revolving line of credit of $5 million from Waukesha State Bank. And what the advantage of this line of credit is, as opposed to a traditional cash flow borrow, is that this saves in interest cost as it reduces the time frame that the interest is accumulating and reduces the amount the district needs to borrow in total. And in a traditional cash flow borrow, the taxable revolving line of credit, it can be drawn and repaid in any amounts at any time. This saves the district money. That's in a traditional cash flow borrow, you take the money out right away and you pay the interest over the term. With a revolving line of credit, you just take it as you need it and just pay the interest as you need it. So that's a big advantage of this. So what we're looking at doing in our board meeting on October 14th is having the board approve a resolution authorizing the taxable tax and revenue anticipation promissory note for cash flow purposes. not to exceed $5 million. Quarles and Brady, the district's bond counsel, has reviewed all the documents associated with it. They provided a legal opinion for Waukesha State Bank. And the financial impact would be if we were need to draw upon it, it would be the interest would be the lesser of the prime rate minus 1% with a floor of 3.75 or 18% on an annual basis. So it's just an insurance policy, just in case. I mean, if, that's just what we wanted to give the board an update before the October board meeting.
This is one of our regular procedures that we've been doing, and we have not used it in the last couple of years, as I recall.
Yeah, the last 2 years, we haven't needed it. Previous to that, I mean, we did a $12 million line of credit or promissory note for the 13-14 fiscal year. And all the previous years, we were needing it. But the last 2 years, we didn't, and this year, we're looking at it just in case of any unexpected expenditures or revenue shortfalls.
Other questions? Okay.
Well,
Yes, Mr.
What
Como.
what would the fees be for Quarles and Brady, or have been for Quarles and Brady? And then also, are there any upfront fees to take out the line of credit with the bank?
No, there are no fees with Waukesha State Bank. And to provide the legal opinion that the bank requires, Quarles and Brady has a fee of about $2,800.
Okay, and that's been pretty much in line with
Correct.
the
It's-
past?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? Thank
So
you.
again, that'll be on next month's agenda as a action item for the
Good.
board. You need to have a budget and levy in place for the
In
line
order-
of credit to start, so that's
Right.
the reason for the timing.
Okay. And our next item is the 2/15/16 financial year update.
What we wanted to do here was just give you an update of where we're finishing the fiscal year. And we are going to present a complete audited financial statement at our November meeting. But what we have here is a summary of the revenues, expenses, and change in fund balance for each of the individual funds the district has. So if you were just to take a look at it, each individual fund, we're flipping the page, we're presenting you with that 14-15 actual revenue and expense and change in fund balance, the 15-16 budget, the unaudited 15-16 actuals, and the 16-17 budget. So this is a quick snapshot for the committee, just to take a look at where we're finishing our fund balance and where we stand in our fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. And again, this is just a moment in time, at the end of the fiscal year, at one of our, higher points, but a snapshot in comparison to where we stand from previous years also.
And the field work for the audit's actually been completed. We think these are very near
Yeah.
final numbers, so we thought it was, I wouldn't have given anything a month ago because the field work hadn't been done, and you never know what adjustments might come. So we think this is very close to what you're gonna end up seeing. We're trying to get into the cycle of kind of like the line of credit, giving you the information the month ahead when possible. So when you hear the final report or you have to take action, it's not all a new topic. You can't always accomplish that, but one thing I do want to point out in Fund 10, Joe and I are, I'd like to say it was all because of fiscal wizardry, but we came within $23,000 of, I'll never be that close again probably, but, so I thought I should promote that, Joe and I really pulled one off this year. But otherwise, I thought it was a good snapshot. Also, that reminds you of where we are in terms of fund balance. You can look at prior year expenditures at a very high level without it being a 30-page booklet, those types of things. So if you have any questions on any of these, we'd be happy to answer them.
Questions, comments? Quiet committee tonight. Jeffrey?
What fund is student activities
Fund 60, we didn't have that on there because, technically they're not our funds. Technically, they're the student body's funds. We could provide that
Could also
information.
provide that, yeah.
in? Yeah, the only reason I ask is
Yeah, actually, we
That's
pro-
always been an issue with the audit that we get from.
yeah.
Which is how. I was just wondering, because it's usually
Oh,
in our district at any given
Roughly.
time.
Yeah, roughly.
oh, sure.
It's a lot of money. I was just wondering what fund it's in.
And-
It's 60.
And just to touch on that, it's a good question, and I saw that article from Elmbrook as well. We've taken some steps it's by far any district's biggest auditing or procedural opening because you have so many people involved, so much cash handling. It's not very electronic or anything like that. So we've taken some steps already this year. We've eliminated all of the student activity accounts at the elementary schools, for example. In exchange, they're getting a P card. That was one of the reasons so next year, we're looking to take on the middle school student activity accounts. Are the accounts that are in there following DPI guidelines or not? We have an account structure that we can handle, just like their site budget, through our general ledger to take away some of those transactions. And then the year after that's the high schools, and that's the big money, the big activity. But we're trying to close that exposure. But it's an ongoing issue, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Any other questions? Mr. Como?
Just a quick one on Fund 80. The statutes changed a few years ago on that, and looks like we'll continue to spend that down, so it looks like probably we'll be closing that in 2017, 2018. Yeah. So nothing's changed on that fund, right? It's still pretty much just gonna be.
No changes, but as
down.
you know, next spring, there'll be a new state biennial budget being discussed, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But otherwise, you're right, by 17, 18, we should be closing our Fund 80.
Okay.
Or coming up with a new revenue stream to keep it, whatever.
Sure.
Okay. Karen, do you have a question? Any other questions? Not, we are adjourned.